So we have a quorum. I'm going to welcome everybody, and this meeting of the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust is being recorded. It is Tuesday, September 26th at 6:40 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, and Governor Healy's March 29th, 23 revised order extending remote participation by all members in a meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and guidelines for remote participation is a part of the agenda, and it can be also found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen may do so. See the instructions posted with the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological meeting minutes. Because this is a remote meeting, we're required to list the members who are here electronically. So the members are Joseph Method, I always mess up your name.
Christina Kużyca, but
yeah.
don't worry about it.
Christina Kużyca and Bill
Yes, very good.
Ananda Timpane and myself, Fred Clark. We also have a guest tonight, Carol Bosco-Bowman, who is the executive director of the CDC of South Berkshire, who would like to speak with us. In addition, we have 3 members of the public who have logged in. And if the members of the public wish to speak, the way we do things is that the designated members of the board get to address the issue first. Before we have any votes, we will recognize any member, any of the public who has their hand up and would like to speak, and they can address as long as they keep it to, well, 3 minutes. So we'll be reasonable about that as well. And please do not repeat yourself. Anyway, I did send minutes out earlier today. I apologize they didn't come up earlier. Was everybody able to look at them? Did you have enough time to view them?
Yeah, I did.
I unfortunately did not, but as long as other people have, I'm comfortable.
I did.
I did not.
Would you like to vote on them? I know it was not a lot of time.
Is that enough people? We'd only have 3 votes. Is that okay?
Well, anybody can vote on them.
As long as you have quorum, you can vote, and including if people abstain.
All right. Well, I'm gonna abstain.
Well, we need a motion first.
I motion to approve.
I move approve the minutes of August 15th, 2023.
I'll second.
Thank you. This is a roll. Any discussion? Any changes? If after you look at them, I looked at them, they seem reasonable. This is a roll call vote. Joe Method.
Abstain.
Christina.
Aye.
Aye. Bill Cook.
Yes.
Aye. And Ananda Timpane.
Abstain.
Abstain. And chair votes aye. The minutes pass. Thank you very much. We are still missing April and May of this year. I don't know. It's one of those things. Ananda, did you have something to say?
I had 2 things. One, I'm just wondering if there's any underlying issue that we should be in conversation with town staff to resolve on that turnaround, and also knowing that we're looking to the next CPA application and having a record of our meetings about that. I'm also just wondering if we can look forward at how we can have the next round sets of minutes available pretty quickly, knowing that others may be looking for them.
Understood. We do have posted draft minutes, which are longhand that I wrote right after the meeting. Basically a markup on the agenda. We posted so that we have a record. The town clerk requests that I give them a script version before the minutes. We don't have to have verbatim minutes, but our recorder prefers it that way. But I think we need to talk to him about some sort of a automatic thing so it's not so labor intensive. But that's moving on. On the agenda today, we talked about, I put in old business for chair reports. The rental assistance program, I don't know if you folks are interested in seeing the report here. If you can see that, is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
could be
So
bigger.
we contract with Construct, who administers the program, as does the Lennox Affordable Housing Trust, and they raise some other money. And they give us a report quarterly. I talked to them about revising the report. The top half is about us. The bottom half is about all of Southern Berkshire County. Basically, what you're looking at is total assists 191, which covers 84 households, and the numbers of landlords. If you do the math, each of our grants, or each of the grants they're making, is about $900 a month, and typically people get about 2 months worth of assistance from this fund. I'm showing you this because this is the report that I get. The quarterly, the 3-month bill, which I just paid, was $15,000. So we're funding this at about $50,000 or $60,000 a year. I have talked to Construct. A person that I know at Construct is going to take over the management of the reports, and we're going to work with her and get a report that's more useful. Ananda, what would you like to comment? I can't hear you.
So for clarification, we're looking at a cumulative total.
Yes.
For the record, I don't mind looking at this layout in terms of being able to see Southern Berkshire as well as our fund specifically. I would love to be able to look at it on an annual basis with quarterly.
Okay, good comment.
If that's an option.
It is because that's easy. We have the data, we can do that.
Yeah. Thank
you. I got a second report at the same time that had the invoice basicce for the current work. So I just thought I'd bring you up to date on that. The North Plain Road project has to go before the planning board one more time, basically for a technical review, to confirm that the engineering details for the road and things like that are according to our standards. It shouldn't be a big deal. The planning board meets twice a month. I expect that will be in the first meeting in October, and I'll let you know. The real estate transfer fee, I testified in front of the select board. Again, the select board ultimately voted not to include it in the fall town meeting. It's not a dead issue, but it's an issue that may have to be postponed. The interesting side note is the towns of Stockbridge and West Stockbridge asked Lee to brief them on the real estate transfer fee. And both Stockbridge and West Stockbridge are looking to go forward with that. And they're using the exact text that Lee wrote. Lee Davis wrote the text that Stockbridge and West Stockbridge was using. Even though Great Barrington is not using it, it's still out there. So,
But we should clarify, Great Barrington is not using it at this time.
they are not using it at this time, and the vote would have been to send it to town meeting. Town meeting that we have, as you know, a special town meeting that would have not created a bylaw, but it would have been to ask the state legislature for a home rule petition. Once we had a home rule petition, that would come back in front of the select board. A bylaw would be crafted. And if the select board approved, that would then be sent to town meeting a second time to enact the bylaw. So this is basically this would have given us the enabling law to go ahead and craft a bylaw. Long process, but it didn't happen. It may still happen in the spring. To be
But does it make it completely delayed, because in the spring that whole process has to start on a town meeting?
It may. On the other hand, Governor Healy has talked about bringing forward her own bill, which may make the need for a home rule petition moot. In other words, if the state passes an enabling law, a law that says a town can adopt a local bylaw, and here's what it has to contain, then we don't need a special act of the legislature.
Okay.
Governor Healy seems to be concerned that there are right now 10 home rule petitions in front of the legislature and a number of others being prepared. Each one would be slightly different. Part of Lee Davis's argument was Great Barrington wants a place at the table. We want to be part of that crafting of the state law, but it didn't happen. Anyway, also moving on to the agenda. I mean, does anybody have any other questions about that? Seeing none. On the agenda, we included the ADU incentive workshop report. And what I'd like to propose is that we get a short summary and then pass over on this issue tonight for lack of time. We have scheduled a subcommittee meeting for next Thursday, a week from Thursday, October 5th. And the total agenda for that will be to work on the ADU incentive program, particularly the rubrics and the that sort of thing. So I'd really like to just get a very short summary tonight from one of the members of the subcommittee.
I'm happy to do that. We are working, like, the scope of the work of the subcommittee at this point is narrowed to just focus on how we would direct a subcontractor to score applications. And we had robust and useful discussion about that and worked our way through about half of the criteria we'd laid out. We're hoping that we can get through the second half. Chris Rembold was very helpful in clarifying what those parameters needed to look like. So we're set to go on this next meeting without him, and fingers crossed we've got the hang of it and can get through the rest.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's best to have a whole night devoted to working out the final of those issues, rather than try to sandwich it in between other things.
Mhm.
On the next item on the agenda is the CDC's information about a grant request for the purchase of what's the property known as the Thornwood Inn, and I believe we shared the information there. Carol, I would like to ask you to give us a brief, but I'm going to recommend that we not vote on this tonight, that we ask you to come back as part of the RFP that we will look at later in the meeting. So if you'd like to go ahead, do you want me to share my screen or do anything?
No, I think, thank you, Fred, and thanks to all of you. I think I'd just like to take this opportunity to give a brief overview. I'm mindful of your time and look forward to coming back at the appropriate meeting to make a full presentation. So following this board's commitment to creative and nimble solutions to mitigate the housing crisis, we have a project before us that we submitted an expression of interest for the grant request. And the purpose of it is to very quickly add 14 workforce housing units to Great Barrington. So we have an agreement to purchase the Thornwood Inn in Great Barrington. And we are excited to be able to transform that into a co-housing situation that is much like what Construct pioneered at the Windflower Inn. And we're having conversations with a number of folks in the community, including business owners and folks who run nonprofits and hospital, et cetera, about how the lack of ample workforce has impacted the situation, the business, the services that they're offering. And from some of the preliminary conversations we've had, we know that there is interest in some kind of a private nonprofit or private public solution. So we're excited to talk with them and have them be a part of this as we move forward. And that, you know, could look like a subsidy for the property that would help us be able to offer the rents within the workforce housing range. So I think that you know, the plan for the property will be that we will be able to get, you know, once we take ownership, that we will be able to, as quickly as possible, get folks to move in. There are 14 existing rooms, and we are exploring plans to bring online another 3 rooms. And it's an interesting property because it also has the opportunity for us to expand beyond the footprint of the building to include other types of housing, perhaps tiny homes or small homes that will also augment the number of workforce housing units that we can provide in Great Barrington. So unless there are any questions at this point, I think I will just thank the group for continuing on with its efforts to help mitigate the housing crisis. I see a hand up.
Two.
Okay.
Christina, go ahead.
What would the units consist of? Is a room with the access to? Is there a bathroom? Are they? How many accesses to the kitchen, etc., etc.?
So the property at the present has a commercial kitchen, and so that it will be a community kitchen. There's also a large event space that we are considering how to best, you know, what the highest and best use for that space would be. And the property is lovely. Each room will have already has its own bathroom. So, and in some cases, some of the rooms actually or units would have more than one room, so that it would be a 2-room suite type of setup. So so the folks who live there would be able to be on a lovely property that has it's on 2.7 acres right now. The owners would like to retain some of that but there's plenty of room for folks to be outside. There's a beautiful garden area. There would be laundry in the facility for everyone to use. So it's also on the bus line, which is a really good plus. So there are a lot of different benefits to being on the property, and also a lot of good reasons for us to choose this location. It really does present a fairly swift way for us to increase the workforce housing inventory in Great Barrington.
I have another question. Did you have, because you mentioned that there were consultation with business owners and other type of organizations. Were there any consultations with the public about this? The people that are actually interested in finding a good place to live.
So we have not engaged with the public directly as far as inviting them to let us know if they would like to live in this type of a residence, because until the deal is done, I think we know two things. One, Construct has had considerable interest in their property and in Windflower, and we understand there's been a waiting list. And two, we ourselves receive regularly an average of 2 or 3 inquiries a week about workforce housing. And we also manage affordable housing, so we do get inquiries for that. But since Berkshire Housing manages those properties, a lot of those inquiries go directly to them. Whereas we get the more general ones. Do we have any availability in the Sumner block, for example? We've got a waiting list there. So we know that there's a demand for it. And once
So
we
people
are able,
or from the businesses? Is it from
Pardon?
are they inquiries? Are they from the people or from the
people, they're individuals who are, some are business owners, some are people who are artists who want to stay in town within the community that they've existed for 20 years. They're a variety of people, but they are not actual businesses. These are individuals who want to remain a part of this community. Thanks for the questions.
Thank you.
Ananda?
Could you talk a little bit about how you see affordable housing fitting into this workforce housing project?
So this affordable housing won't fit into this project because it will be strictly workforce housing. We have brought online 96 units since 2018 of affordable housing, and we will continue to try to do that. And we do have plans to bring more of those online. But as we all know, unfortunately, those types of developments take 3, 5, 7 years to get together the financing and the planning that is needed in order to break ground and begin to build those units. So this will be strictly workforce housing, but we are also developing plans for other affordable housing that will be in that 60% of area median income or lower.
So to clarify, this, for the purposes of the Affordable Housing Trust, in what ways would you be restricting this housing that would comply with our requirement to tie our funds to area median income?
So we would restrict a proportionate amount of rooms at 100% of AMI. So just as we did at the Sumner block, we would propose to do the same for this property.
Do you have any idea what
So this would be targeting, those rooms would be targeting people over 60% and up to 100% of AMI.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just interject? The funds that we get from CPA are limited to 100% AMI, but some of the funds that we get outside of CPA from town funds or others, which is the only other source we've gotten, can go beyond 100%, as long as they stay within our goal. And that's sort of been commonly accepted as to be up to 110% of AMI, which gets into a workforce housing. In other words, we have $175,000 from town funds that theoretically could go to 110% AMI, more workforce housing. And I think that workforce housing is within our charge of what the things that we're supposed to be doing. Nanda, are you still speaking, or did I interject you?
I had a question, a follow-up question for you. So that 110%, where does that come from?
Where does that come from? In my discussions with Lee Davis. What's that?
You or Bill, like, where is that at the benchmark of 110%? What is the source of that as a benchmark for affordable housing trust?
I don't know. I haven't heard of that. I thought we were limited to 100% as a housing trust.
So
I had discussions with Lee Davis about this, and she shared a link.
So I'd like to clarify that either with a state source or with Chris. That would be useful for us to have clear information about.
I will take that as homework for me.
Yeah, I think the thing to be clarified is Affordable Housing Trust. Our mission is to create community housing, or it's the creation and preservation of affordable housing for the benefit of low and moderate income households, and for the funding of community housing. So I think some of the there's some flexibility in community housing, but definitely but definitely
that specific benchmark.
But definitely the money from CPA has to be under 100%. But I think I think we just need to get it and have the lines drawn exactly. But yeah, I think it's probably true.
To clarify, Carol's not talking about 110. She was talking about 100%.
For the
AMI.
Satisfaction.
Can I have some kind of clarification, because I have no idea what's the 100% of MI? What would be one of the rents? What would be the rent in amount of dollars for a room in 14 room co-house?
So we have not finalized those numbers. We just have a range that we are exploring right now, because some of that is going to depend on how much subsidy we can obtain with any community partners and any grants that we are able to secure. But as an example, if the range is typically around 1,200 for say an individual who is working in Great Barrington. That's just, I can get you and will provide more precise numbers if we're invited to do present a full proposal to you. But there are published numbers that HUD actually publishes for all of this, all of these different ranges. So
yeah, Christina, I can, like, for reference, for 2023 AMI in Great Barrington for one person is 71,000. For a 4-person household, it's 102,000.
But how does that translate to rents? Is that 30%?
So that hang on one second. That's $1,775 a month, and at the Thornwood, that our rents would also be inclusive of all the utilities and internet, all of that.
Wow.
But I'm not saying that the rent would be at that rate. That's higher than we are projecting.
Amanda, you are muted.
Yeah, you're just saying that that's
That's a simple calculation based on
calculation.
71,000.
You would be targeting something under that.
Yes, indeed.
Well, any other questions for Carol? We're going to invite her back when she has a full proposal. I think maybe we could use this brief time to tell her what we're looking for in general terms. I think some of the questions from Christina and Ananda have to do with how we can be assured that the grant money will be used to create affordable and community housing. I mean, do we have a deed restriction? If we don't have a deed restriction, what's the mechanism to guarantee that? So,
Okay.
Bill, I think you were first. Excuse me. Bill, I think you were first.
Yeah, it's not so much a question as a concern. The financial plan includes sponsoring partnerships with local employers. And I would like you to make sure that there is something worked out that if the employee gets fired or leaves the business for some reason, that there is some mechanism for letting them stay until they find another place or something like that.
Thank you for that request.
Ananda,
Yeah.
do you have
I just wanted to clarify process-wise, what you're suggesting right now, Fred, is more kind of like those kinds of questions that we've been asking, things that we would be reading any proposal thinking about, as opposed to what we're going to be doing in the next agenda item is working through really specifically what we're looking for in applications. So I just want to separate those two tasks.
Yes. What I'm suggesting is, are there any things that the committee members really think we need to call out? And I was suggesting that we need to somehow or other be assured that the grant money goes towards what it's intended for.
Yeah.
And continues to for some time.
My question was gonna be the same as Bill's. I've gotten, just on Facebook, a lot of people's concern was about the sort of power dynamics of the situation. So I think we would need to have, for when there's an actual thing, I think there needs to be like very, very strong protections for the workers.
I agree with that. And I am personally pleased to live in the state of Massachusetts, where there are a lot of tenant protections. And I understand the concern about power dynamics, and we have to abide by fair housing laws. And so just as an example, those folks who live in our affordable housing apartments, they have to be income qualified regularly. But if they don't income qualify, there's quite a long period of time that allows them the ability to be able to find safe, affordable housing. So, we will take this under consideration and address it so that you have an understanding of how we would want to move forward in that regard.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We look forward to hearing from you.
Oh, I have one more question.
Okay.
The question was, why didn't you ask for money from the CPC for the special request?
The timing just didn't work out for what we were doing with the other work that we were doing at the organization. But we plan to go to CPA for funds to perform some further renovations and the creation of other housing units. So we do plan on doing that.
From my point of view, I wish that CPA would just give us all the money and then we could control how it's spent, but
Mm,
not going to happen.
mm-mm.
Not this year, but you never know what's going to happen down the line.
Thank you, Carol.
Well, I appreciate it.
Okay, we have on our agenda the RFP proposal that we have a draft of. Ananda, you have a comment while I'm looking for?
Sure. Well, you pull up,
I'm working on it.
yeah, no, while you do that, can we open the floor to discussion about the best way to approach how we go through this?
I am all ears.
So that's I mean, that's a question to the whole panel. What's the best way to proceed reviewing this for you all? Do you folks want to go section by section or start with general comments?
I think I will start. I think the most important part, just similarly to the ADU incentive program, is the rubric for deciding what we're looking for, what's important there, how to score it.
I mean, I think that's important. I think
Can you see this, by the way?
what we're
Sorry.
scoring also matters.
Yeah, I do have some questions about the actual request for proposals and things that are included in that. Not a lot, but a couple.
I don't know what you guys can see. So is that better or worse?
That's
Yes,
better.
better.
Probably get rid of the bar at the top.
Do you want to start there, Bill?
Chris put this together. I cannot take credit for this, by the way. It's based upon other RFPs that we've issued before.
I didn't have anything until part 3.
The dates will need to be tweaked,
right?
Because I don't think that we're going to be able to issue this in 3 days.
Right.
And we'll need to look at a calendar for.
That's what I wanted to talk about, because I think one of the things we've talked about in discussion is having a rolling application. So can we set this up as an open RFP with it's a rolling application that there's a deadline that's a reoccurring deadline every month, that this is the deadline application would need to get in to be considered by the Affordable Housing Trust at its next meeting.
Yeah, I like that idea, but I'd prefer to do it quarterly.
I mean, my question around that, I mean, I don't quarterly sounds fine. The way I'd test it though is in the experience, especially Fred, you and Bill, who've been at this a little longer than the rest of us. When an organization has approached the trust, or when there's been a property, or this would be a little bit different, but when somebody has approached the trust with something, has it ever needed to move more quickly than a 3-month window?
I think it could.
Yeah, probably when the other grants maybe will have a deadline or something like this.
I kind of prefer the monthly,
Okay.
because it's real estate and people need to know what they're going to get into.
I agree.
Pretty quickly.
I mean, just to play devil's advocate, the advantage of doing an annual is you like the CPA does. You know how much money you have, and you can look at all of them together, and you can evaluate and assess one proposal against another. This way, if you get something in November and you say that looks great and give them X amount of money, you may not have enough by the May
Right.
proposal. But
I mean, what I would say two things about that. One, it means that we really have to be clear about what criteria we use to make a grant. And then even if we run out of money, we will know that every grant we made was within what we wanted to fund, you know, like it really meets a standard. The other thing I would say is, what's the point of having another annual deadline if the tricky thing about CPA is that it's an annual deadline? Like, to me, the strength of an affordable housing trust is that we can be more nimble. And if we don't build structures that do that, then yes, like we will never get, we will never get the max allocation of funds available from CPA or CPC, because it might as well stay in CPC.
We need to spend it all every year.
And there's the spending issue, but there's also just the why, like if we want to answer for the community, why move those funds to the Affordable Housing Trust?
Exactly.
You know, so far we've said because we have a good project, but as you all have pointed out to me, that like having a good project means having a 2-year lead on a project, because that's how long it takes to secure funds through CPA.
Right.
So the answer really should be move funds to the Affordable Housing Trust, because the Affordable Housing Trust can move them quickly into the community in a variety of ways to immediately meet needs as they arise.
Yeah, exactly.
And also because of the procurement process is different, but.
Where is this going to be posted? On a town website, or?
yes,
And is it going to be advertised in any papers?
I know Eileen will talk about it. We need to talk about a marketing plan. So I was quoted by Heather Bello in the Eagle the other day as saying that the purpose of the RFP was to fish in the waters, which was kind of a dumb quote, but I did say it. And I mean it, because I think that we're looking to find proposals from a wider community that may or may not be apparent to us already.
So should we have a vote on the time frame for the RFP?
I don't think we have to vote on each individual. I'm editing right here. The next.
So maybe instead of a vote, Bill, we can just check it. Are we in general agreement to move to a rolling application? Christina, Joe?
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
I think.
The next thing in the body that I was interested in talking about is this RFP would be open to individuals and developers, which I'm assuming developers is standing in for organizations. So I just wanted to talk through, we haven't previously talked about receiving this kind of application from an individual. And that's,
So
I think, what we're talking about.
I'm highlighting right now persons and/or developers, which could be a private nonprofit, right? Is that what you're concerned about? I mean, I'm trying to.
I don't even know if I have a concern so much as it seems like we've worked primarily with nonprofits for good reasons. And this would explicitly frame that a little bit differently and also include individuals. I'm assuming that persons indicates individuals. And so I just wanted to make sure we were talking through and thinking through that, as it seems different than how we've worked so far.
I think if an individual wanted to buy a house and split it up into units and rent the units out affordably, but couldn't do it without some assistance or some subsidy, I'd be open to that.
Can we just make it vague and say, seeking proposals for parties?
Yeah.
Parties who have the experience, capacity. It also implies that developers aren't persons. There's something else that says individuals.
Individuals or groups.
Well, what I'm seeing on the page says persons and or developers.
Yeah.
Did it used to say individuals, or has it been saying?
No, I was just making it explicit that persons could be an individual.
Yes.
How about persons and or entities?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, just parties or something.
I mean, that's one way to do it. My underlying question is, let me ask it a different way. Like, is there something that we know up front now that if an individual approached us to fund, that it would just be off the table, but would look like this was an appropriate place to put that application? Are there things we wouldn't do?
Sure, there's plenty of things that we wouldn't do. For instance, if somebody came to us with a piece of land and they said, this is a great piece of land to develop, but maybe it's out on the road towards Monterey or something, and it's not served by utilities, it's not served by the bus, and it would be imprudent for the town, for us acting as the town's agent, to buy such a piece of land because it would be difficult and impractical financially to develop. So we may, it says here that we're open to different kinds of projects, including land, but many of those may be impractical. Does that answer your question or not?
Well, she's asking about the person, like specifically about the something about the people or something about the like.
Well, why don't we just put, like, to say what Joe's suggesting? I prefer entities. I don't know.
Individuals and groups.
Christina?
I prefer individual and groups. And the question that I have is, because you mentioned Monterey, are we in any way flexible that, say, the land or the house that needs to be redeveloped be exactly in the Great Barrington, within the Great Barrington parameters, or they can be actually a little bit outside, but they serve Great Barrington population?
The answer is no. Has to be within the town of Great Barrington.
Okay.
And that's kind of a hard line.
Yeah.
Is there a benefit to, because I have been thinking of proposals that an organization or an individual comes to us to develop something as different from the process we might go through if we were going to choose to acquire something.
We should bias most of our actions towards supporting development and not becoming a developer ourselves. We learned a lot from the North Plain Road site. I mean, there's a lot of benefits It's the first project that Habitat's doing south of Pittsfield. It's going to be wonderful eventually, but it's taken a lot of staff time. It's taken a lot of commitment from the town, and we're a town of 7,300 people. We don't have that staff. We don't have the people to do that kind of thing. And we really should be a granting organization and not a developer. We should be supporting developers.
But it wasn't that long ago that I was having a conversation in this space about considering land acquisition again. So I don't know that that is as as shared a conclusion as it just sounded. I understand the logic behind it, and I understand the concern about the capacity of the town to administer what it has on its plate. I don't know that I think that it is wise to operate within your capacity. And also, I don't know that that an affordable housing trust shouldn't be positioned to do acquisitions, because I think that we're uniquely positioned to acquire things in ways that other bodies in the town are not.
We are. And, I was just trying to use that as an example of maybe the pitfalls that one can get into. Quite frankly, the North Plain Road surprised me that we would be so involved and invested in it. I was under the impression that once we chose Habitat, they would take over all of the management. As it turned out, the eligibility for the state grant required the town to manage the grant application and to actually, once the grant was awarded, retain ownership of the land. The town still owns the land that we purchased. And that has what's resulted in more commitment.
Right.
For that particular.
Fred, is that at some level it is for the voters of the town to decide over time what capacity town hall should have to support projects like that, and we will always kind of need to function within whatever that capacity is.
But what I'm trying to say is I think that we can use our experience as part of a learning curve, a sort of lessons learned, so that maybe the next land we look at it and says, gee, it's already served by municipal water and sewer. It's already on a bus route. Those are some of the criteria that we might use for selections. And yes, go ahead and acquire that land, but I don't want to just acquire land that we land bank or becomes a white elephant, because we are acting as agents for the town. I don't want to buy land that's undevelopable. That really so for instance, if we bought a piece of land, we could then use that, just as we did with Habitat, as the incentive for a developer to create an affordable housing. And I think it's a great when they can come in with a package. I don't know who was first, Ananda and Christina.
Christina was first.
So my concern is that we give up our control over those projects. Like, for example, right now we own the land that Habitat is developing. We actually have maybe some degree of control over what's going on. Once we don't have this, we don't know the land, or we don't have any, I think we should basically retain some kind of control over what's happening, because I feel that what's happening with the Habitat, I have lots of concerns of what they do with the properties that were given to them by the town.
Well,
For the purposes of our task tonight, what I'd like to propose is that we remove land acquisitions from this RFP so that this is solely an RFP that organizations or individuals, groups, whatever wording we choose, can
Mhm.
use to apply for funding towards a project that they are taking the lead on. So an example would be,
so would you like me to remove this first bullet point?
let me make that larger on my screen so I can see.
I believe the answer is yes. That
Yeah,
doesn't preclude us
I
from,
think
right,
with the
Right.
caveat that I'm fine, like if the proposal we get is a proposal that I mean, the proposal we're looking at right now is a proposal that are going to acquire land with a building on it and do some modifications to the building, but it's pretty ready to go. I mean, if an organization came to us and part of the proposal is they're going to acquire land and then build new development on it, that to me is fine. I think that would fit with what I'm envisioning here. I just am saying, let's separate out the trust acquiring land
Right.
and not do that in here.
So
Well,
you're
having
looking for
that-
a turnkey proposal. I'm sorry, Bill.
having that in the RFP doesn't preclude us from going and just acquiring land that comes available for some reason outside of the
I
RFP.
just
We're
want to
not
be clear that this is
constrained by
not
that.
our process for the trust acquiring land.
Yeah, this is not our process for that.
That's what I want to be clear. This is not a process that the trust will use for acquiring land. This is a
Right.
process for an outside entity to apply to the trust
Yes.
for funding for a project that they are doing that will result in affordable housing.
Right, having this.
I don't mean to make you
RFP
jizz either.
Having this in the RFP doesn't restrict us to only buying land through an RFP process.
So what's your pleasure, people? Remove this bullet point?
No.
I think we can leave it.
But I think my issue is that the way the bullet point is worded, it sounds like it is to seek proposals for the following: developable land to acquire for new affordable housing. So it's like the wording
Yeah, I agree.
says that it's a proposal for the trust to acquire the land. So
Yes.
I'd like to clarify that this is not a place that the trust is going to acquire the land, but we would review a proposal for a individual or a group to acquire land for new affordable housing.
Totally.
Yes,
Has to be changed.
I
the
agree
word.
with that, if you can make it a bullet point.
And Fred, I mean, having been in your shoes and doing live editing while I'm in the discussion and moving the meeting along, it can be a lot. So if it is helpful to you for
All right.
for edits outside of this, I know that we can't meet, but I'm happy to be assigned a task.
Well, I was hoping to get it issued tonight.
I see. Well, then we'll have to keep at it and try for the wording.
There you go.
And then you'll want to take.
And I think that covers your issue, doesn't it?
I think.
Yeah.
For an applicant, I've added for an applicant to acquire developable land, to acquire, to acquire is,
to acquire out, yeah.
yeah, it's redundant. Okay, so that makes it clear that we're not buying the land.
Right.
Um,
And then on page 3, there's a reference to
I
turning
mean, I
it.
think it could almost do 2 bullet points with new or existing, but
On page 3, there's a reference to CDs or memory sticks. I don't think that's how we're accepting applications anymore. We'll want to
Right.
update.
That was one of my points too.
I
I don't even have a CD player anymore. I don't know.
would you like me to delete CDs?
I mean, I would say that how we would accept them would be in PDF form over email.
No, we need a electronic copy, I believe.
Yes, a
Well,
PDF is an electronic copy and can be
Yeah.
transferred to email.
One electronic copy. I think we still want it on a memory stick. Chris
No,
wrote this, not me. I mean,
no.
Well, I would
No.
expect that was a cut and paste from an old draft of something,
all
and
right.
this is
Yeah.
actually looking for.
I think if you just put electronic version, we're good.
Excellent choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they can ask what they mean.
Yeah.
So I'll make this date conform to what we talked about before. So the dates are going to have to be edited through here.
Sure.
Um,
Do we even need the hard copies? What was,
yes, we
There
need
you
the
go.
hard copies. So I'm going back to the beginning. I don't mean to make you guys dizzy with my edits here.
That's okay.
The RFP will be issued and then I'm going to say this RFP will remain open until October 1st, 2024, 1 year. Inquiry deadlines,
Should we make it the town fiscal
monthly. So I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Should we make it the town fiscal year? So that it opens as we renew funds?
July, is that right?
Yeah, so it'd be open until June 30th and then it would reopen.
And we'd have to vote on it again, but we
Yeah.
could do that separately.
And then we normally meet the third Tuesday of the month.
We do. So I
So-
haven't changed the inquiries, but the
Yes.
proposal submission, I'm saying, is the 15th of each month.
I think that we
2 p.m.
should allow a little bit more time for it to go into the packet and for review. So I'm wondering if we couldn't do the first of the month. Because there are times when the third Tuesday is pretty close to the 15th.
That's true.
First of each month.
Yeah.
And so the inquiries deadlines, I'm going to move that down because, or
What's inquiries?
clarifications about the RFP.
Mhm,
For instance, they might ask how much money.
mhm.
Yeah, so that
I'm
could-
just going to put on a rolling basis.
yeah, I mean, the inquiries can be made in the month prior to the application. I mean, they can be made at any time prior to the application at a standing meeting.
I mean, do we really need any deadline for questions, inquiries?
I think it's more that you need to publish the question process.
Mhm.
I mean, the affordable housing trusts have slightly different rules, and I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but in a standard, the standard procurement process does not apply to us, but in the standard procurement process, it has to be very clear when people can ask questions in order for the process to be fair.
How about
When I'm
up
applying.
to, how about up to 2 weeks prior?
Why don't, it's just that we wouldn't accept questions between the meeting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Well, the questions are going to come to Chris anyway.
Yeah.
And then, if up to 2 weeks prior to the submission. That'll give some time to turn around a question.
Yeah. And the
Okay.
truth, because it's a rolling deadline, somebody could submit be turned down and resubmit. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a different kind of process.
Selection, I want to put ASAP, but, or, the presentation, yeah, in the, at the Rex, at the following meeting. I don't think we want to have special meetings just to,
No, we don't want to have special meetings, but it is possible that if we're all getting materials in advance and we're doing it on a rolling basis and we've asked for all the materials we need, it's very possible that at least most of the time we'll be able to make a decision in the same meeting we hear the presentation.
Yeah, that would be the ideal, I think.
But there will be situations where we will need to continue it.
does it make sense to write to the greatest extent possible, at the, time of the presentation?
Yes.
Or presentation,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah, and then I would add,
But no later than, 1 month, and
I would add a second sentence that makes it clear that this is, the vote may be continued to additional meetings.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something may be really involved and it may take a few meetings to get through. Lots of questions.
sorry, I've got multiple things going on here, so
Yeah.
I'll continue to additional meetings. Okay, I think that works.
Yeah.
I need to
You can take out the word
wordsmith
add.
this document. What's that?
Take out the word add.
Yeah.
There we go.
I need to wordsmith this document because right here, for instance, it has in bold when the submission deadline, but I'll go ahead and wordsmith that.
We did on page 4, there's a place, I don't know exactly where it is, but it references his or her. A better practice would be to say their. At least I think it was on page 4. That's what my notes were.
Is this section 4 or?
Yeah, you can do a search and replace.
Oh, no, it is. It's number 4 of the bulleted list for proposal submission requirements.
The top, yeah, but then.
But it's highlighted now. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
And I actually have a sort of significant question on section 3, where it says the RFP is subject to the Massachusetts Uniform Procurement Act.
Yeah, that's right. We aren't, right?
We are not.
Where is that?
I mean, if we're giving money to someone, they don't have to pay prevailing wage or the projects won't get done.
Can you give me a Roman numeral of it? I don't have
Roman
the page
numeral
number.
3. It's after the address to the town, it's the 3rd line down. A little further down. There. The RFP is subject to the Massachusetts Uniform Procurement Act.
How about is not subject to?
Well, we're giving,
You can just take it out.
yeah. We're giving a grant. And that is not going to make the grantee subject to all the 30B procurement
No.
stuff, or there'd be a problem. I mean, I suppose the grant itself is sort of that, but I don't think so. Maybe a good question for Chris. Why is that in there?
Okay.
I suspect it's copy and paste.
I suspect it is too, but
Yeah.
He may be referring to the RFP itself, but that doesn't make any sense either. So yeah, I think we just take it out. But you still might want to check with Chris. Maybe there's a reason we can't think of. It's unclear what that is actually referring to.
Yeah, I think that if the town is issuing an RFP, they have different things than the trust. I was talking to Jeremy and he was making an argument that one of the values of using affordable housing trusts to disperse funds is that it is not, it doesn't have the same procurement law requirements.
Right.
So I'd like to get to the rubric before we,
Yes. That's all I got outside of it.
I think most of the rest of us is fairly standard. And if this is what, I mean, I think that this is overkill for what we're asking here.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is, and maybe we start by just issuing it this way, but what I'm wondering is if the ultimate goal couldn't be to break down that narrative section into a form that's on website and they just fill in the sections.
Yep, I agree.
And put attachments, etc.
So I drafted it was not really a form, but more of it's not really a fillable form, but I drafted a submission document some time ago. What I'd like to do is to get to the point where we ask them to use that document, which is on the website, and that way they'll be coming in a standard format. And Carol has used it before, but I just did something on Word that was very simple. I can show it if you want, but
well, we have 8 minutes.
I know. I don't mean to make you dizzy here by going around. Successful proposer will be the responsive and responsible proposer who submits the most advantageous proposal, taking into consideration the grant amount requested from the trust and all other evaluation criteria set forth in the RFP. The trust will notify all proposers in writing of its decision. I would like to add something that says subject to available funds, and the trust has the ability to reduce the award below what the asking price is. And I know you hate that, but
I think that's actually in there somewhere.
For this kind of, for this kind of thing, I think that is standard, but I would say that, in our actual deliberations, making decisions, I would encourage us to consider whether reducing what we would put in still leaves the project viable. Like that's
I understand.
Yeah. But I think, for this, that's fine. My thought about the section that you just read out loud, Fred, is that this is a place we may also need to reference that the applications are selected on a rolling basis and grants will be made as long as funds are available. It might be that simple because it's not like this is describing a single point competitive process. And I think we can take that out and just be straightforward that they'll be reviewed on a rolling basis and evaluated based on the criteria, and grants will be made as long as funds are available in each fiscal year.
I'm just going to add here on a,
And how would we decide what amount? Is there anything about it in the proposal?
Depends on what they ask for.
Yeah, just what that's for.
I mean, I think that's a good question, Christina, and I think, you know, you can always say, well, you know, like there'll be RFPs that I respond to in my work life that they tell you up front, here's the whole pot available for this type of project for the year, and we'll be making grants of up to this amount, and we'll be granting a minimum number of this many grants. So basically, I mean, if you had $1 million and you were willing to fund up to 250,000 per project, you're going to fund a minimum of 4 grants, but then based on what you receive, you might fund more. So that's one way you can do it. And that would tie in with our budget, with having a budgeting process in the spring where we allocate, this is how much we're going to put in this pot.
That sounds good to me.
I mean, we don't have $1 million yet, but
I know.
so, Fred, it looks like we're not going to have time to go through the criteria.
well, I mean, we can stay as long as people want. I mean, we don't turn into a pumpkin yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin in a few minutes.
Yeah, Joe turns into a pumpkin at 8 o'clock.
I mean, they're pretty.
I mean, the question becomes, do you want to issue this with subject, purchase price obviously needs to be restructured here. Instead of that, we'll write,
Grant amount requested.
annual.
So, I mean, I'm just scanning through these again, and I'm thinking there's some things that are listed as not advantageous that I actually think would just be disqualifying.
Yeah.
Well, the non-responsive, I think, means disqualifying, right?
Yeah.
But like not just like it's disqualifying of the whole application, not just that category.
Right.
So I'd like to make sure that's clear.
Eileen wants to ask a question.
I'm not on that screen. Let's see, I have to go participants. Eileen, go ahead and ask your question, please.
We can't hear you, Eileen.
Eileen, do you have a question?
It looks like you're muted at the moment, and now you're not. But I can't hear you.
I have allowed Eileen Mooney to talk.
Maybe technical difficulty.
If you have if you still have a question, please raise your hand again. Okay. Can you share what you want to talk about? Eileen, are you there?
Maybe you could just promote her to a panelist.
I don't want to do that.
Okay, fine.
I have to go. Bye.
Hey, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Eileen, we can't hear you.
And you're not muted.
I can promote you to a panelist.
She is a panelist. I can see her on the panel now.
Yes. Well, I still can't hear anything.
I don't believe her hand is up. Yeah, Eileen, we can't hear you.
And now you are muted.
Now you're not.
Do you have a microphone, or is your microphone on? We're showing that you're not muted, but we can't hear you.
I think we might need to move
Yeah.
on.
Eileen, if you can figure out your technical issues, please let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, so
The question I have is, I mean, now that it's 8 o'clock, Joe has left. We understand that, and I understand that we've been, going on this for a while. Do we want to continue this? Do we want to vote on it? Do we want to circulate it again?
I'd love to send it out, have it ready to send out by the end of the meeting, but
We agreed also to meet a week from Thursday for the ADU. Do you want to?
I mean, it's an ADU subcommittee meeting. We didn't agree that the whole trust would meet.
right.
Um,
And I believe it's already been posted to that.
Yeah.
Okay, some of these dates will have to be fixed.
some of the dates
So-
will be fixed, and I don't think that the evaluation criteria are tight enough yet.
Okay,
By the way, I have to say something about this because I do think that more flexible is better than less flexible. Like you wanted to say that it's going
Okay.
to be completely disqualified. Some of those things, I feel that it's great that they are less advantageous, but they might actually have some other advantages over the more advantageous. And so I would keep it as it is, less advantageous and more advantageous, rather than disqualified.
so we've asked CDC to come back under the RFP. They have a November date to close on the building that they want to buy. So it does become critical for them that we issue an RFP. We've sort of led them on to believe that we would be issuing an RFP. Obviously, we can't issue a defective one, so that they would come back to our next regular meeting in the third Tuesday in November with a request for the funds.
October, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever date this is.
Yeah. So I'm happy to, I can do another 15 minutes or so if people want to.
I could do that.
Or you can also call a vote and I'll vote the way I vote.
Well, what we want is your intelligence, and if we can do it efficiently in 5 minutes, that is worth the time.
All right, I'll give you what I got. I think that if we have a proposal that is missing, there are certain items that if the proposal is missing, that it just is not a proposal. So that's that under that first one, overall quality of the proposal, not advantageous. And like if it's not a complete proposal, I do not think we should review it, period.
Yeah.
So that's one. Then in terms of, then I also under affordability and purchase price, both of those not advantageous. I also, to me, I think they're disqualifying. So those are the ones where I was identifying that not advantageous. I actually think that that not advantageous would need to be a different measure, because what's there to me is disqualifying. Maybe you all disagree. The other things that I wanted to discuss was if 100% AMI is too high for this pot of funding. Based on our earlier conversation, I expect that some people don't feel that wouldn't feel like that, but like this is a place I'd be inclined to say we're gonna be looking for like a max of 80% or something.
Yeah, I think we're still sort of looking at some kind of workforce housing here too.
Yeah, I hear, like, that's where I say, like,
I mean,
I understand
if
completely. People may have a different opinion than I, so like that's was one of the, like, if you know, that's a discussion we can have about every application too. It doesn't have to be on the front end of the criteria.
Right. I think if someone comes in with 80%, that's a better proposal than 100%, but I don't think we should not consider it for going to 100%.
Yeah.
So you were saying not
does highly advantageous look like with incomes of with incomes of 80% or less across the board? Do you know what I mean? Do we deal with it that way, Bill, that the highly advantageous are going to have more units that are restricted to lower income people?
Agreed.
Yeah, okay.
Well, this highly advantageous that's in front of you has two components. One is the quantity, the number of units that'll be preserved or created, which is 3, which is more than the previous thing, which said 1, and at least some units will be reserved there. So
yeah, I mean, to me,
I think the way it's written works because it's not just talking about the level of the AMI, the affordability, but it is talking about the quantity of the units that are created.
Yeah, so I would be in favor of keeping quantity, and still taking out 100%.
Agreed.
And I would go up from it has more than 3, but like that it has more than 3 affordable units will be preserved or created for households with incomes of 80% AMI or less is what I would propose. And to me, highly advantageous would be the whole project is going to be AMI restricted. And so that's okay. Then somebody else might get advantageous because they're only restricting part of the project, and that's okay. That doesn't mean they won't get funds.
Right.
But I think in highly advantageous as an affordable housing trust, we really need to set a high bar for what is highly advantageous under affordability.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know if you can see what I've just done editing here.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I took out 100% or 100%, but I added it to the advantageous. So I took that section that says advantageous is more than one affordable unit with 100% AMI, and at least some units will be or Oh,
Uh,
not at least.
if we're talking about one unit, then we can't have some units that are 80% because there's only one unit. So the 80% can't go there.
we want to get rid of it altogether?
Yeah.
Oh, it says more than one, so that is actually.
Oh, more than one.
It
Okay.
does, yeah, I
Never
think
mind.
it, Bill.
Never mind. I thought it said one.
You-
More than-
Yeah. So under highly advantageous, I'd still like to add, so it would say more than three affordable units will be preserved or created for households with incomes of 80% AMI or less, and 100% of the units will be 100% AMI or less.
Yeah. You know, if somebody wants to, you know, make a duplex, I think advantageous, you just leave it 100% or less of AMI.
Yeah, I was talking about highly advantageous.
I know
Right.
you were.
But I'm just going back to the other one.
Honestly, I don't think we should. I don't think we need to add that.
I just think that
I think you're building too high a bar.
It's fine though, because it's just the bar. It means that that's what you have to get to have a highly advantageous application. It doesn't mean that's what you have to get funding.
Right.
But we should be really clear what
I agree with that.
The goal is to push our community to that level of affordability.
I agree with that for the highly advantageous. I just don't think advantageous needs to have anything 80% or less. I think that's too high a bar.
Yeah. I'm totally fine with that, Bill.
Okay, we're good then.
All units
Will be affordable to 100% or less. Anyway.
And then I think my last note that really matters to me is I'd like to add a criteria, and this speaks to something you'd brought up earlier, Christina, that would, similar to where we ask about general experience, I'd like to add a criteria that would speak to the outreach and like the knowledge of the experience working in South County in this field.
Mhm.
And so that might mean considering outreach and community track record.
But what about individuals?
I think that's like, I think an individual could, I mean, I think there are plenty of individuals who could speak like in an application with speak to their knowledge of the community, how they would do outreach, and that would show up differently than if it was somebody from North Adams who didn't know the community.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, it's not just their like somebody's track record might be like, I grew up in Housatonic, I worked here, I've worked there, I've been part of the community in all these ways. Here's my track record for outreach. And also like somebody might not get a high score and still be a very viable application.
Yeah, okay.
That was my big thing. And then the thing that I was thinking about because it's a conversation Joe keeps bringing to us, and maybe the way we do it is we just, for the rest of this fiscal year, we have the conversation as part of how we're evaluating the application, like just in the discussion. But Joe has kept asking us to think about what's the relationship between a request amount, a grant we make, and the number of units or people who will be served.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I just was thinking about, because I know that Joe asks that question every time we evaluate something.
See, for me, of course, we're going to be doing an individual basis. For me, the amount of people is not as important as actual equality of the living space for people, So for me, the building with the 14 rooms, with the 14 roommates, it's not a highly advantageous thing.
So do we have an evaluation criteria to evaluate the quality of the living space, and should we have one? We just developed one for the ADU pilot proposal.
Right.
So we could steal from that. And Fred, I just sent that to you tonight.
Yes.
So what if we did this?
Wait.
Never mind.
Facilitate there. I'm lost here on this section here. It looks like there's something missing between the grant amount and the developer recommends a transaction that. Wow, there's something missing there.
Like you deleted it?
So this might be a place, you know, I must have deleted it, but I have the backup unit. I didn't put track changes on, which I probably should have.
What page are you on? I have the full.
The bottom of page 4, the top of page 5.
So in the
Under grant amount, what's bullet number 5?
Okay, I see. Oh, interesting. So the document that you sent out has two number 4s. So it had
Whoops, yep.
number 3 was financial feasibility. Number 4 was affordability, which I think you changed to grant amount. Is that correct? No, that you didn't. That's still affordability. Purchase price was the second number 4. You changed that to grant amount. And then it goes straight to interviewer.
Right.
To interview.
Yeah, I'm trying to wordsmith the number 4 here.
Number 4.
Well, there's a way you can do this to redefine the number.
So if we are going to be considering the quality of the living space, I would like to add the work permanence.
I think
the workforce is the
the
impermanent housing and versus permanent housing, affordable housing.
Close. There we go.
Well, it's cheating. I
That's okay. We don't mind.
Keisha, so under living space, you wanna evaluate if it's month to month lease or longer leases.
Yes.
I can also share some of what we used in the pilot scoring. We used on the low end was it meets the minimum standards of a dwelling unit in terms of water, sanitation, insulation, heat, in alignment with the state sanitary code. And then the most advantageous it has a full kitchen, washer, dryer, full bath, high-speed internet,
Right.
strong natural light. And then we just arranged some things in between that. And we also had minimum allowable square feet under ADU housing code to maximum allowable square feet under ADU zoning. So that was more specific to ADUs, but. We basically said we'd evaluate square feet, amenities, and natural light.
That would do it.
But that workforce proposal might have all those things, and I still would like to have the more advantageous.
You'd like to add least advantageous would be month to month lease. Most advantageous would be multi-year lease.
Multi-year, exactly.
Yeah.
And where does this go?
This would add a new category if I heard correctly. So we want to add 2 new categories. One is would mirror the experience category, but be about community knowledge and experience working in South County. And the second one would be the
Well, why can't we just add that to the experience here? Do we really need another category?
I mean,
Well,
that's up to you all. I do think I think that it is important, like what you're evaluating in that category right now is important to evaluate and may have no relationship to their ability, like to an entity's ability or an individual's ability to do that work in our community. So it's
Well,
up to you to add it
Well,
here.
I think we need to have an outreach, a marketing and outreach category, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
That
outreach, community knowledge. Yeah, let's do that.
something that has, highly advantaged would be, has a experience working in South County in our community.
Field of affordable housing, not advantaged, no experience working in South County, no experience
Yeah.
doing community work in affordable housing.
This is somebody else's format. I'm just using it.
Yeah, I'm guessing we may get a lot of applications that are not from developers necessarily who don't have any experience in that sort of thing, but that doesn't particularly disqualify anybody, so that's all right.
Is one of the ways we'll evaluate it.
Right.
So what did I say? Community and outreach? I don't think we're going to be able to get through this.
Yeah.
I think community outreach experience
Well,
is good.
it's-
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the advantages to adding that is it means that we're prompting people to think as they're designing the project about how that part will work, and that alone will be helpful.
Mhm.
And then the second, are you all set, Fred,
Yep.
to add a second new category?
No, in a minute. Yes, I could do that. But I'm gonna have to rewrite these two, and then the highly advantageous. So just throw this in. Yes. Second,
The second new category is the quality of the living spaces proposed to be built.
okay.
And that would have 4 characteristics. So it would be evaluated based on the size of the space, the amenities offered, natural light, and the length of the lease structure. So least advantageous would be month to month lease. Most advantageous would be multi-year lease. Least advantageous would be meets minimum allowable square footage, minimum standards for dwelling units, for water, sanitation, insulation, heat, and minimum window requirements. Most advantageous would be the most spacious, has full kitchen, washer, dryer, full bath, high-speed internet, and strong natural light.
energy efficient? I mean, that anything new is going to be stretch code.
Yeah, yes, given what the new codes are, I don't know that we have to worry about evaluating that.
And then did you add that lease, multi-year lease? I'm
I
kind
did
of
say
spacing-
that. I don't know if
Yeah, I'm spacing out already because I'm tired.
Yeah, I know.
we all are, or
Mhm.
I am too.
Yeah,
Crap. Can we vote on this or?
Yes,
Why don't, all right, I make a motion that we approve the content as outlined and discussed for posting with a provision that Fred will add details to, well, make final edits and corrections and capture the ranking details we discussed in the last part of this meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Do you think I can send it around or not?
No, you can't.
No,
You can send it to Bill for typo edits.
I may not be the best one for that.
Oh, you have such a strong eye for detail. I just was making an assumption.
You're welcome to do that. I'll hand it to my wife. She'll do it.
So there's a motion and a second on the table. Any discussion? Hearing none. This is a roll call vote. Bill Cook, the motion is to issue this RFP subject to the discussion and final edits. Bill Cook,
Aye, yes.
Ananda Timpain,
Aye.
and Christina,
I
and Fred Clark votes aye, yes. Do we have any, that concludes our business tonight. Do we have any,
Well, Eileen is back.
media comments or any, we have one hand. James, go ahead. You should be able to talk now.
Yes, thank you. This is James Garzone, 84 North Lane Road. I was just making a comment regarding the citizens and planning board and select board members asking perhaps for the CPC to release more money to the Affordable Housing Trust. I think there's a great momentum now with all the comments that have been going on for the past couple of weeks that if we start asking the CPC to allocate money directly to the Affordable Housing Trust, I think it can be done this coming year in the open period that's going to happen in the spring. So I would ask if the Affordable Housing Trust can have these conversations now and hopefully be granted more funds so you can nimbly act more quickly instead of asking on a yearly basis for project money, which we all know you get way too little and you should be allocated more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any media time? Hearing none. Without objection, we are going to call the meeting and close tonight, 8:28. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, Fred.
Right.